by $3 to $4.94 per ton. CBOT soybeans and meal contracts were up, while soy oil contracts were down. Harvest progress advanced rapidly this week across the prairies. Yesterday's Saskatchewan crop report showed significant progress, with 90% of the canola crop combined as of Monday. It is expected that today's crop report from Alberta will also show considerable progress. The International Grains Council has estimated that our canola crop this year here in Canada will be at 20.5 million tons, which is down 4% from last year. In the U.S., the November soybean contract rose 6 cents to $8.48 per bushel. South Korea has purchased 60,000 tons of soy oil from optional origins in an international tender. The Buenos Aires Grain Exchange has estimated Argentina's soybean acreage to be at 17.9 million hectares, which is down slightly from last year. Seeding is 2% complete, which is in line with last year. U.S. corn futures were stronger this morning in trade. The December contract added 7 cents to $3.68. South Korea has purchased almost 2.4 million bushels of corn, and China sold a bunch of more of its corn reserves today. This sale totaled 66.8 million bushels. France Agremier is reporting that the French corn crop is 91% planted as of Sunday. This is way ahead of where it was last year at this time. U.S. wheat futures were higher in morning trade. The December contract in Chicago gained 17 cents to $5.04. Kansas City was up 15 cents to $5.01 per bushel, and Minneapolis December wheat added 8 cents to $5.77. The Australian Bureau of Agricultural and Resource Economics has lowered their Australian wheat production estimate by 13% to 16.53 million tons. The harvest is just starting there currently. The European Union Commission has also lowered their soft wheat crop estimate by 1.3 million tons to 127.4 million tons. And the Russian Ag Ministry is meeting with wheat exporters today. Traders are expecting that Russian wheat exports will be shut off by January, but they aren't expecting any government intervention before then to slow down the export pace. Russian news agencies are reporting that domestic bread prices are currently rising there in the country. That's a look at the ICE futures, canola, and U.S. markets for Friday morning, October 26th in Winnipeg. For Markets Farm, I'm Ashley Robinson.
This year's Value Bonanza sales event at Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John gives you more choices and more savings. Choose 0% financing, cash back, and more on select New Holland tractors, hay and forage products, and materials handling equipment. These Value Bonanza offers end October 31st, so make the trip to Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John today. For commercial use only, customer participation subject to credit qualification and CNH Industrial Capital Canada Limited approval. Standard terms, conditions, and other restrictions apply. Down payment may be required.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at Energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Trev Talks with your host, Trevor Boland.
Good morning, Fort St. John. I am, as I mentioned yesterday on Facebook, I am back in my seat thanks to Chris and Adam and Dave for covering for me while we were doing elections. Speaking of elections, we've got our first guest this morning is the interim deputy leader of the BC Conservative Party, Justin Greenwood. Hey, Justin, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries at all. So you and I were chatting a little bit off air just as we were getting ready for this, and you know, I was kind of going over. I've been following your posts on the BC Conservative Party page and your own page in regards to the referendum that seems to be taking over Facebook right now.
Yeah, sure is. You bet.
Which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's good that people are getting aware. But tell us a little bit about where you're coming from for those that haven't seen your videos.
Yeah, no worries. Well, first and foremost, I want to congratulate you on your re-election.
Oh, thank you very much. Another 4 years, decade and a half, kind of makes me a smarter and a wiser man.
Well, that's good. So back to your question, where we stand as a party on the electoral reform is we're officially neutral, and the reason why we're neutral is because our membership, a large number of it is in favor of keeping the current system, and a large number is in favor of change. So because we feel that the electoral reform referendum should be a nonpartisan issue, that's what we're respecting, and that's where we stand.
That's actually, and I like that idea. And there was some posts last night on Facebook about, how the BC Liberals have taken a hard stance on first past the post. And then, of course, you've got, the Greens that are very, very much in favor of any kind of a PR system. For the parties to stay out of it and remain neutral and let it be the people of British Columbia that decide and hopefully get involved, right? Let's hope that we actually see some sort of a large turnout on this.
That's right. And unfortunately for the Liberals, unfortunately for us, though, they're doing this campaign of fear, and it's getting beyond ridiculous with what they're doing on the no side. Instead of encouraging people to educate themselves, they're trying to scare them into, well, this is what's going to happen if PR goes through. And as I said, us being neutral, we just want to call out where the misleads are, and that's what we've been doing. And a lot of it's coming from the BC Liberals and the No BC Prop Rep Society. They've been a little bit overboard with what they're pointing at what's going to happen. So I think that may nip them in the butt later down the road, seeing how this turns out.
Well, and it's gonna be interesting. I've been doing a lot of research on PR, and we've had the vote before in BC, and it hasn't passed, and one was during Gordon Campbell as a premier. And I read recently in the mid '90s, Prince Edward Island actually went to a PR vote and had about a 60% in favor of going PR, but with about a 29% voter turnout. Yeah. So the province at the time, or the leader at the time, had said, hey, we only got 29% of the people that have even shown up for this. So I think that's something that let's hope that the existing government takes into consideration, that, that yes vote to go to a PR system may be based on 30% of the province, which isn't fair either.
Right, and I would tend to agree with that. It's just that's just how it is, though, with voter turnout. That's why we've been pushing out on the social media, with Facebook and everything, encouraging everyone to educate themselves, encouraging to vote in this. The one thing that we've been standing on is, I don't know if anyone remembers, but this is probably sometime last year, there was a possibility that this legislation was just going to be pushed through, not even go to a referendum. So we were advocating strongly for a referendum. We're thankful for that. However, the point where it's 50% plus one for passing, we're not too happy with that, because quite honestly, when you look at the demographics, that is, basically deciding the Lower Mainland is going to decide what's going to happen with that. However, if you do look at how PR works, it does work a little more in favor for people like in your region there, Fort St. John, the Peace areas, to have a bigger say in the legislature.
Yeah, that is true. Now, speaking of our area, we were talking earlier, you've got riding associations in both the North Peace and the South Peace. We do, yeah. You guys are at about half of the numbers as far as the ridings go, where you've got an association in those areas.
We're getting there, yeah. We're rebuilding for sure.
That's beautiful. So, a lot of people don't know either. The BC Conservatives were the original government in British Columbia.
Yes, we formed government twice.
Right, yeah, so formed government twice.
115th year this year.
115 years in the province of British Columbia.
That's right.
So there's been some definite struggles with the party over the years. Right, it goes without saying. That's kind of that's why you're working so hard on rebuilding. Yep. So the goal, what? So the referendum's over November 30th. The people of British Columbia hopefully get out and they decide what this is going to be, and let's hope it's a lot bigger than a 29% or 30% turnout. What's next for you guys? So November 30th comes along. The referendum's over. What do we see with the BC Conservative Party?
So we've got next week, we open up our leadership race, applications for leadership. That starts on Monday, and those applications will be cut off by the end of the year, and then by the end of February we'll have our new leader elected. Also, we have our AGM that's coming up in Kelowna. That will be November 24th, I believe. So there's a new member cutoff if you want to attend the AGM and be involved in that. It's November 3rd. So you can go onto our website, bcconservative.ca. The information there for the AGMs there, and for the leadership race, that should be up next week, as I mentioned.
Okay, interesting. So you guys are in the midst of looking for a new leader. New leaders opens next week, you said, as far as any candidates, and then closes in the end of February.
Yes. So like we'll start accepting applications, and anyone interested in running for leader starting on Monday.
Now, is there some people in the, I know you can't tell us, there's, Bob Smith is going to announce his name, but I mean, the last time we had, the official party leader up in Fort St. John was John Cummins.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to think, that was probably about 2007 or 8.
Okay.
I'm not 100% correct, but John was up in Fort St. John and visited both Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, and the surrounding areas. So do you have some people in the wings? I mean, when John came over to the BC Conservatives, he came, of course, from the federal Conservatives out of Ottawa, came more to a local sense as far as BC goes. Are we going to see something similar to that, do you feel?
It's really interesting. I've got tons of rumors. We've got people who have actually come and talked to us, and there's people that are going to step forward and run for sure, like no matter what. And then there are people that are waiting to see how this referendum goes. And it's kind of like why we've timed it the way we have with the AGM and the leadership race. It's right around to see what's going to happen. If PR does pass, you're going to see a lot of fireworks in BC politics in the next few months.
Well, and I was talking about somebody the other day here, and the biggest thing I think is going to happen if PR goes ahead, I think you're going to see a lot of parties that have maybe sat dormant or not been in existence all of a sudden want to jump in on this ship, right? This new cruising ship because of what they're making it. It's I guess, and I guess whatever. I mean, to each of their own. But there's going to be some that look for opportunity, but there's others that are going to be ready for the opportunity.
That's right, and I just want to when you said that John Cummins had visited you guys a few years ago, I was just up there visiting earlier in February, and I was talking about this up there as well. And it's there is an opportunity, but at the same time, there's that whole thing with the BC Liberals claiming to be this coalition of Conservatives and Liberals, and that's been an ongoing battle that we've had. And if PR does go through, that pretty much negates that whole purpose that they've set forth. And we're going to see. We've already been seeing an influx of membership since they elected a federal Liberal donor as their leader. And if PR goes through, we know that it's going to be a complete game changer for our party overnight.
Well, and I love that you brought that up. So one of the questions on Facebook last night from a gentleman that posted said, if the Liberals are supposed to be the Conservatives in BC, then what are the Conservatives? And my response back to him was of course, great question, and let's leave that for tomorrow. So you touched on that a little bit, and it seems that the belief in British Columbia, and maybe especially in the North, is that the Liberals were always the right side of the spectrum. And we had Gordon Campbell and Christy Clark, both as leaders of the province and of the parties. And obviously some right-sided issues were dealt with or geared towards during that time frame. But the BC Conservatives, I mean, give us a little bit of an idea. Why do people think that? Why do they think that the Liberals are actually conservative? And maybe now with Andrew Wilkinson, as you said, being a federal supporter at that point in time,
the Liberals,
for the federal Liberals, maybe that's a bit of a game changer. So how do you tell people the difference between, hey, listen, you know what, we weren't around for a long time. The Liberals did somewhat act as a coalition, but we're back.
It's tough. It's a tough one because, in the beginning, you could make that argument very easily because that was when the social credit sort of merged in and helped out with the Liberals there. But they've veered so far off of conservative ideology that just I call it the myth sort of lingers, and that's something that I'm working on with the party. And there's more videos to come. One of the biggest, differences with us and the Liberals is the carbon tax. I mean, that's not a conservative point at all. And you look at all the Conservatives across Canada, all the Conservative parties across Canada, we're for scrapping the carbon tax. And the BC Liberals are the ones that brought it in first, and not only brought it in, but raised it every year for about 6 or 7 years. And then now they're touting that, you got to ease off on the gas tax, John. Those kind of commercials are just almost kind of funny to listen to. It's just it's are you forgetting that you were the ones that put it in? And we're the only party in British Columbia that's advocating for a completely repeal of the carbon tax.
Nice. And you know what? I have to agree with you on that point. When you look at, and a lot of people in Fort St. John right now, and I know down in the Lower Mainland too, with what's happening with gas prices, you look at what you're paying at the pump, and what people don't realize is between the current provincial taxes that are on fuel, and then throw in the federal. I mean, there's upwards of 40 to 45 cents per liter that is just going to the increase in carbon, the increase in gas tax, and everything that we've been hit with for the last few years.
That's right. So along with that, and the fact that they were touting for so long for balanced budgets and the surplus, but you look at the actual bottom line. I'm a bottom line kind of guy. The bottom line is during those 16 years of Liberal government, they doubled the debt, the provincial debt, and they've also, you look at ICBC, and the premiums are the highest in the country, and that's kind of a mismanagement, and that's nothing that comes from a free enterprise coalition. So these are the kind of things I'll be coming forth with in more videos and bringing more truth, and we'll work on it that way. That's
good. You know what? I think the conversation is the good thing, right? Is letting people know what's happening, what you guys see on your site. So now, can you run in the leadership race because you're the intern deputy leader?
Myself, if I was interested, which I'm not at this time, I could yes put in, but with our constitution, there's nothing about a deputy leader. So
okay, so Scott couldn't. Scott is the acting. What is Scott Anderson? Scott is the acting.
Scott is our interim leader.
Okay, he's the interim leader.
Yes, and it's a little vague in our constitution whether he can run or not, but he is confirmed already last year when he took the poll he would not run for leader, and he just got reelected as a city council.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. That's fantastic. That's great news. So I like it. So if anybody wants to check out what you guys are all about, I mean, they can easily get a hold of you on Facebook, which you're with the BC Conservative page. I see it's very, very active. I've been following that page for a long time. It's just, doing what I do, I love to see the different ideas and the different opinions, and especially of the different parties. So it's great seeing that you guys are taking such an active stance. Really, really appreciate you sharing with us why you're taking a neutral stance on the PR referendum. Let people decide. Don't, on both sides. Don't heavy fearmonger. Don't heavy, unicorns and sunshine. Let people get the facts. Next week you're going to start the leadership for the BC Conservatives, and that's going to run to the end of February. I think that's going to be really interesting, and I think we need to have you back on the show. I think probably about midway of that, because I'd love to see how that's going on. Yeah, and get people engaged in it. Right. The more people that are engaged, the more people that are aware, the larger something becomes.
Yeah, agreed. And like you said, it's been really great on Facebook lately and other social media with us taking this neutral stance. It's been hitting across the political spectrum, and it's been really great having that talk with other people that you wouldn't otherwise had, and sort of break down those walls of tribalism, and it's been kind of rampant through our neighbors in the south and sort of creeping its way up here. So it's been interesting. Yeah, no, I actually spent quite a bit of time. One of those posts you've got quite a large amount of comments on there, and I like to. I'm a comment reader, so I'll one or two comment to get my point across, and then from that point on, I just like to read what other people think or other people feel, and the amount of people that were coming out and saying, thank you for not jumping on the bandwagon of either side, but thank you for just providing information and sharing the ideas. I think that's pretty important. I think that's pretty huge right now in this day and age. I agree. Awesome. Okay, well, good. That is all we've got. We're going to head to a commercial break. So I thank you very much for joining us. I wish you guys all the best as you start next week in your leadership campaign. It's going to be really interesting following that and seeing, kind of back to a three-party system, if you will, in British Columbia with the way you guys are spearheading this. Yeah, thanks, Trev. I really appreciate it having me. Yeah. Have a great day, and we will catch up with you probably about mid your guys' campaign, because it's going to be exciting. Sounds great. Thanks. All right, stay tuned. We will up next with Wanda Schmook from Action Property Management. Let's get kind of the down low of what's going on with rentals in the market and what we can expect to see in the coming months and years. Come right back. Are you in the market for new eyewear or sunglasses? Check out Merwin Optical, serving Fort St. John since 1987. Licensed opticians Glenn and Snehal will help you make the right choices when selecting your eyewear. Merwin carries many brands, including Oakley, Easy Clip, and more. Something for every budget, Merwin offers 1-hour service on most prescriptions. For a limited time, receive free sight testing with the purchase of glasses. Same-day sight testing for adults 19 to 64 only. Direct billing for most insurance plans, year-round savings of 50% on second sets makes it easy to get both your eyewear and sunglasses at once at Merwin Optical.
As a proud member of our community, the Fort St. John Co-op is always striving to serve you better. So that's why they give you a lifetime of rewards when you become a co-op member. Enjoy benefits like high-quality products and services at competitive prices, the potential for annual cashback, and your equity that grows over time. Plus, the Fort St. John Co-op gives you the opportunity to get involved as a member owner. To learn more about becoming a co-op member, stop by the Fort St. John Co-op or visit fsjcoop.com.
Photographers, flowers, dresses. The 21st annual Fort St. John Wedding Show was a huge success, and Michael So Jewelry was proud to be a big part of it. If you were also at the Fort St. John Wedding Show, Michael So Jewelry invites you to stop into their store to take advantage of your $20 off all necklaces and pendants, plus 20% off all diamond rings. Let the amazing staff at Michael So Jewelry help you pick out the perfect piece or two. Michael So Jewelry, your licensed goldsmith in-house in the Totem Mall.
Hey, this is Chris from Yellowhead Road and Bridge with another friendly fall reminder. As summer is coming to a close and winter is edging closer, a lot of road construction is ramping up to ensure it is completed before the snow flies. We'd like to continue to remind everyone to ensure they are following instructions from traffic control personnel on site and obeying posted speed limit signs, as we want to ensure the safety of the worker on the road. We want everyone to make it home safe at the end of the day. For more information on worksite safety, visit conezonebc.com.
Winter's on the way. Are you prepared? If not, you will be after a trip to United Rentals. Stop into United Rentals today and check out their lineup of heating options for fall, including electric heat and diesel, or indirect and direct heat. United Rentals also has a great selection of lighting for inside and out, including LED or standard incandescent light towers. Whether it's heat, light, or both you need this fall, you'll find all the equipment you need for sale or rent at United Rentals. For more, call 250-262-3005.
There are plenty of reasons your vehicle could use a good cleaning inside and out this fall. Mud and dirt from the roads, messy kids and pets, equally messy husbands.
Hey!
Am I wrong?
Well, no, but still.
So stop into McSud's Car and Truck Wash to wash and vacuum your vehicle in one of their nice warm bays. Plus, cleaning supplies, air fresheners, and super helpful staff. McSud's Car and Truck Wash. Open 7 days a week on the Alaska Road next to McDonald's. Fleet cards always accepted. Make Suds with McSuds.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at Energeticcity.ca. This is Trev Talks with Trevor Bolin.
Welcome back. We are back with our second guest of the show today, and of course my first show back in about 5 weeks, as I was off during other events happening locally. So we just finished up with the BC Conservative Party deputy intern leader. Phenomenal conversation. Love seeing what's going on. Love seeing anything that affects the province or the people of the province. And speaking of that, let's bring it a little closer to home. Coming up with me right now in the studio, we've got Wanda Smook, and Wanda is the owner of Action Property Management. Wanda, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Trevor.
So you don't do these typically. You don't like being
the
realm of public speaking, but I mean, here's the thing. For me, you have been in property management for a long time. I look at me being in real estate for as long as I had been in, and you were there far before I was.
Yes.
Right? I'm not saying you're old. I'm saying you started when you were 9, right? So
exactly.
To me, and I think some of the biggest questions that people have is often about the real estate market, the rental market, how that affects them. And going forward now, I start to look at the past. And I mean, you and I have talked talked a lot over the last few years about vacancy rates and what's happening. And I mean, what was the lowest point we had seen in the last couple of years? I mean, let's not kid ourselves. These last couple of years have been tough for everybody.
They were a brutal few years for sure. At the peak, we were about 30% vacant.
Wow. And we had gone from about a 0% vacancy, right, in 2014, 2015?
Exactly, yeah.
So from 0% to 30%. So total rentals in the city, I would probably guess to be about, 2,300, 2,500? Yeah. So we had 38% of those sitting vacant. So that was when? Was that 16 or was that 17?
That was 17.
That was in 2017. So that was recent. That wasn't that long ago.
Very recent. Things did start to pick up a little bit beginning of 2018, and they've just continued to pick up as well. The last couple of months have actually been very good.
Good. And we're about, what are we about right now? Probably 10 to 12%?
We're about 12%.
About 12% vacancy.
A lot of that being the older apartment buildings and whatnot. houses, duplexes, we're sitting about 7%.
Well, that's not bad. So those have soaked up quite nicely.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and you know, it's funny because what prompted me to get a hold of you, to have you on the show, is I gauge from what I see on Facebook. So, you know, last year, the year before, it seemed like every third swipe was, I need to rent out my duplex. I need to rent out my house, right? I have rooms for rent or suites for rent. And I don't see that now. I all of a sudden I see that people are starting to look more than they are trying to market.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's really picked up a lot. There's not near as much on the market. We're starting to absorb some of the new construction that happened, so a lot of that is getting filled up as well. So.
Good. Well, I think property management. I mean, yes, we're, you know, between the Real Estate Association and the Property Management Association, we're all governed by, you know, similar bodies, and there's similar tie-ins in the provincial scope of things. But I think people need to realize too is the actual tie-in here on the ground. You know, in Fort St. John, when you start to see it go from 30% to 12% inside of a year, less than a year, that's huge. That's big news. That's great for the market. You know, and prices are still lower than they've probably ever been. You know, I look at real estate prices. Real estate prices in Fort St. John. You know, we've seen where the numbers were back to about 2012 prices. Where have you seen those numbers come?
They're starting to pick up a little bit, but yeah, they did come down a lot. I mean, things in 2013, 14 were really high priced.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're a little more affordable now. But they are starting to pick back up again as well.
And I think going forward is I think we're going to see a lot less development happening over the course of the next couple of years, right? And as we've seen in 2003, 2006, 2014, you know, after times where you play that catch up and all of a sudden the new development stops, we always find ourselves in this great big panic of a build it because things are increasing so fast. What do you see for the rental market going forward in the next, you know, maybe in the next year and then the next few years?
In the next year, I see it picking up even more. I think that there's going to be, like you say, not as many new builds coming on maybe, but we'll be able to absorb those. A lot of the older apartment buildings will start to fill up again. The new stuff is an easy sell usually, right?
Oh, yeah, shiny, new.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's
So,
that whole new car scent,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
New condo scent, we'll call
yeah,
it.
Yeah. So no, all indications are that it's going to be a very busy new year. I think
Nice.
it might take a little while. It might take a couple more months until we really see the effects. But we've got people calling us already for January. Companies are coming in, they're going to need places, or I'm coming to work, but I'm not coming there till January. So I really think January we're really going to start to feel it.
That's impressive. I was talking to a gentleman from one of the local hotels the other night, and same thing. He said, you know, we've got companies calling because they can't find the accommodations they're going to need right away. He said, but the hotels pre-booked January, February, and March already, right? So you look at that and you go, okay, there's, you know, if there's 70 units that they've pre-booked in a hotel, they're going to put their guys there. You know, within the first month, they're going to be looking to put them into something more permanent, something more affordable than what a hotel would be. So what ideally would you like to see kind of for spring is to go from a 12 down to about a 6 to 8% vacancy? I mean, is that healthy? What is healthy in our market? We don't know. We haven't had healthy because it's one huge extreme.
Or 30.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the heat in this building, right?
Yeah,
It's either freezing or it's so hot you want to take your top off. But so what is healthy in this market?
I think between the 5 and 6% would be a healthy vacancy rate. It gives people options too, so that, you know, they're not taking something just because there is nothing else available
At huge dollar.
at huge dollars. So it makes it a little more competitive.
Do you
which is good.
actually think we'll be able to maintain a 5 to 6% though going forward in the next couple of years? Like, I mean, it's ideal, and I think we're going to hit that mark probably quicker than most people think we will. But at what point in time, if no new to market comes on, and we've got this influx of people moving in, which we're already starting to see, what's that last? I mean, should people be going, okay, you know what, by February, I need to sign a 1-year lease. I need to lock in my price, right? Because we know what could happen with those increases.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that we could maintain the 5%, and it really depends on what comes online. Like, you know,
How many projects
are going to come on, and
Good
we're
call.
seeing indications.
I heard a couple weeks ago that hydro, as far as the dam goes, that they've got another component of the construction happening, and there's going to be a large move in locally of hydro workers, and I've heard, and this is not confirmed by any stretch of the imagination, but I've heard they need upwards of about 400 units.
I have heard that, and we actually have gotten calls already from BC Hydro people that are going to be, or hydro, that are going to be coming up in the new year.
Really?
They're looking for places already.
So we figured 2,300 total rental units in the city. We're at about a 10% vacancy. So literally, that's going to be a game changer depending on when those come.
Exactly.
Or if more, 2 bodies per room or 3 bodies per room, or however they work it. But we very well could wind up just on that move alone being back to this low vacancy by February.
Definitely, we could
Yeah,
be.
and you know what, and that's one of the things I've always loved about our market. If you don't like how it is today, just wait till tomorrow. It's going to change. Anything in our housing market's going to change within a day. So that's awesome. You know what? I really appreciate you stopping by. I love talking to you. I love your expertise in the market. I come to you often, and I know that probably drives you nuts, but there's always what you hear, right? There's always what you hear or what you see or what people see or people hear, but then there's actually what's happening in the market, right? In the rental market, which I appreciate you sharing that with us. So if people want to find out more, of course, I mean, you own Action Property, and they can follow you on your Facebook page. You've got one for both Fort St. John and Dawson Creek. Controlling both those markets. So check out Action Property Management, FSJ, or for our listeners in the South Piece, check it out on Action Property DC. For those listening online, get involved. Follow the page. It's easy to then see what's happening in the market. So when you see something on Facebook that's not actually correct, you can be the ray of sunshine to change that perspective. So Wanda, thank you very much for joining us. Absolutely love having you on the show. We will do this again. I'm imagining probably by February when you're coming back and saying, okay, we're now at a 2% vacancy, or we're now at a 0% vacancy, because I see that in our future very closely. So thanks again.
Thank you, Trevor.
We will talk to you soon.
You bet.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on my first show back. As I mentioned, I'm excited to be back. I hope you're excited for me to be back, and we will see you next Friday.
You've been listening to Trev Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.